welcome. So we finally reached almost the end of the Mayor's Academy. You will have your graduations next week. So this is between that and today is only one module sessions left, which is module 6. And in module 6A, 2 weeks ago, we learned and discussed about the available financing modalities for your initiative, where you share your the details of your choice of finances and strategies. And from there, we heard from the expert about gender responsive financing and budgeting, which is a game changer to create a whole of government approach that can bridge the gap between the governments and communities, especially vulnerable populations. We also had Mayor Suzette from Badiangan sharing her city experience in developing and delivering gender responsive participatory budgeting and governance. And Module 6A also covered how cities can benefit from project data disclosure and enable them to, which enables cities to measure and manage their environmental impact and risks. And also it's another way to demonstrate leadership, transparency, and actions at the city level. And lastly, we have our expert shared with us about the own source revenue, or OSR, its functional variations and the challenges that cities are facing on increasing their own source of revenue. From there, we have asked you to elaborate on the posture of your city OSR, and we'll be touching back on OSR a later part of our sessions, where we promise to bring you, the OSR expert, to provide their feedback specifically on your proposed financing modalities on initiative based on the homework that you have submitted. Before we reach that point, I would like to outline our agenda today. And can we move to the few slides later? Next one. So thank you very much. And so the majority of this module 6 is actually focusing on developing bankable projects and project preparations. And so you will see in the agenda, the first 1.5 or would say 2 hours is actually focusing on developing bankable projects and how cities can develop bankable project and project preparations. And then we also touch about the city-to-city collaborations and GCM project preparations and implementations before we go and discuss your homework. I think I would stop there and then just introduce our first expert that's going to speak today. So we have Mr. Oh, sorry. So, of course, I forget about it. So before we move to the first presentation, if you could so kindly to turn on your camera so that we can take a photos. Sort of like this is your attendance card, right? So please turn on your camera. Sol, I left it to you to give us instruction.
So in the count of 3, I will take the screenshot. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And yes, I see Mayor from Suryodaya. Welcome, Mayors. I hope the situations in Nepal is getting better.
Yeah, it's good, getting better. And now it's okay. Peaceful.
Great.
No problem. Yeah.
Happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, as I mentioned, would like to welcome Mr. Brian Joseph Kapati. Brian, pardon me if I pronounce your name incorrectly. So Brian is working with Cities Development Initiative for Asia, or CDIA. He's an urban development specialist, and I believe he's civil engineer by profession. So he has technical expertise to back up his profile, and he has managed a lot of project preparations under CDIA in sectors like water supply and sanitation, flood and drainage, solid waste management, and urban renewal. So I think he's the right expert to share with us. And please ask him lots of questions, especially related to the infrastructure project that you were proposing through your initiative. So today, Brian is going to talk about assessing climate finance and developing bankable project. Brian, you have 15 minutes for the presentations, and then we'll follow up with discussions. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mahesti, and it's a privilege to be here, everyone. I hope if you don't mind if I turn off my video to save some bandwidth. We had some connectivity problems earlier here. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, everyone, and it's a privilege to be here. To start off the presentation, and just to highlight, across Asia, the urgency of preparing bankable and climate resilient infrastructure projects is clearer than ever. So in just the past year alone, we've seen devastating floods from the monsoon deluge in Punjab, Pakistan. This has submerged more than 8,000 villages and displaced quite a bit of the population. To flash floods in Bali and West Sumatra that have claimed lives and destroyed critical infrastructure, to prolonged inundation in Bangladesh and Northeast India that disrupted communities and economies. And here locally in the Philippines, we have experienced typhoon-driven floods repeatedly inundating Metro Manila and surrounding provinces, which has paralyzed urban systems. These events underscore how climate risks are escalating, while financing conditions are becoming more, I would say, competitive. Without strong project preparation, promising ideas, and poorly designed investments may lock cities into greater vulnerability and longer-term costs. So I am here, Brian Kapati, Urban Development Specialist, and today I will share with you how we can transform innovative concepts into projects that not only attract financing, but also deliver lasting resilience for communities and the environment. Next slide, please. So these recurring disasters highlight a simple truth. Resilience starts with preparation, but preparing projects that are both technically sound and financially viable is not always an easy task for many cities. So this is where we, the Cities Development Initiative for Asia, or CDIA, come in. So CDIA supports cities in turning their climate and infrastructure priorities into well-structured and bankable projects. So we bridge the gap between urgent needs on the ground and the financing needed to deliver lasting solutions. So CDIA was established in 2007 and managed by ADB since 2018. We are a multi-donor trust fund that helps secondary cities turn their development aspirations into bankable infrastructure projects through project preparation studies, or PPSs. Our supporting partners are historically Austria, Germany, Korea, Spain, and Switzerland. We provide grants averaging around 500,000 per study, while also encouraging cities to contribute in-kind contribution to this. So as you see on the right of the slide, since 2007, we have supported 136 secondary cities across 22 countries in Asia and the Pacific. We have allocated about 50 million for 122 project preparation studies. So these efforts have helped link cities. All of these PPSs have helped link cities to ensuing investments worth around $13.4 billion. Next slide, please. So CDIA's project preparation support has delivered strong development impacts. Over 90% of our PPSs have contributed to environmental improvement and climate action, with very clear benefits for governance and inclusive development. Our PPSs align with key SDGs, channeling resources toward both mitigation and adaptation. And this support has helped cities not only address urgent climate challenges, but also leverage significant ADB financing, turning our well-prepared PPSs into large-scale climate-smart investments. Next. Next slide. So why are we putting so much focus on secondary cities? Well, the reality is that more than half of the people in Asia and the Pacific actually live in these smaller cities and towns. They're not just population centers, they're engines of growth. They play a huge role in trade and development. Now, these secondary cities are also fastest growing cities, but that growth comes with some serious challenges. Infrastructure often can't keep up. Services are stretched often, and many local governments don't have the capacity or resources to prepare strong, bankable projects. On top of that, these cities are highly exposed to climate change impacts and rapid development. So this often puts extra pressure on the environment and the citizens. Another challenge is what we call the big city bias. So larger cities often have attract most of the funding, most of the high-profile projects, while secondary cities are left to figure things out with limited resources. But despite that, there's a big opportunity because of these gaps. There's a huge space for innovative solutions. There's also room for more PPP, though of course many local governments will need significant support to really take advantage of these PPP opportunities. And of course, we can't forget the impact of COVID-19. The pandemic hit local governments really hard, leaving them struggling with finances while still trying to deal with infrastructure needs and recovery. So bottom line is secondary cities may face big challenges, but they also present some of the most exciting opportunities for growth and innovation. Okay, so when we talk about supporting secondary cities, CDI's role goes beyond just infrastructure. It's really about creating livable cities. So that means helping cities prepare for the future in several ways. For example, we work on building climate resilience by promoting adaptation and mitigation strategies, including nature-based solutions or NBSs. We also encourage innovation, making sure infrastructure design is not only sustainable, but also forward-looking. At the same time, we put a strong focus on inclusion, ensuring that vulnerable groups like the elderly and persons with disabilities are not left behind. Another important aspect is gender mainstreaming. By involving stakeholders and designing projects in a participatory way, we make sure intervention reflects the needs of everyone in the city. So, of course, none of this works without strong institutions. So we do help cities strengthen their management and operational skills, and we invest in developing the human capital through training programs and city-to-city learning. So put together, all of these elements create climate resilience, innovation, inclusion, gender equity, capacity building, and skills development. All of these help secondary cities move toward becoming truly livable cities. Next. So when we look at how CDI supports secondary cities, the process really starts with listening. So CDI meets with the city officials to understand their key development concerns. So we often do this through what we call city clinics, wherein we help them pinpoint concrete solutions for their pressing problems. So from there, we work with the stakeholders to identify which projects should be top priority. once these priorities are clear, CDI helps the city carry out what's called as what we call PPSs, or project preparation studies. These PPSs are not just a technical exercise. They also include environmental, social, financial, and economic assessments. And more importantly also, our PPSs integrate climate risk and resilience into the project design itself. So beyond projects, CDI looks at, as I mentioned earlier, looks at the bigger picture. We assess the city's institutional capacity and identify gaps. And then we help design roadmaps to strengthen governance, planning, and financial systems. So throughout this, there's a strong focus on monitoring and evaluation to measure our targets and ensure that they are being met. So at the core of this, our aim is to enhance cities' capacity, make projects more bankable, and ultimately help cities gain access to much needed financing. So as you can see in the figure, we want to be seen as a bridge to get the city's visions, plans to suitable downstream financing sources. Next slide. So when CDI starts working with a city, the first step is project scoping. This is where we sit down with city officials to really understand their priorities and confirm that the project confirm the boundaries and breadth of the project concept. It's a collaborative phase that usually takes a couple of months, although depending on the city's needs, this might get prolonged more. So once the city is ready, they submit an application and we move into preparing the terms of reference. CDI reviews and approves these TORs to make sure the scope is clear and aligned with the city's goals. And then we bring in the consultants. So usually pre-pandemic, this takes around 3 to 4 months. Although now it's 5 to 6 months is more realistic. This is where the consultants help guide the technical aspects of the project. Once the consultant team is on board, we officially kick things off and move into the study phases. The study itself is broken down into 4 phases: the inception, the interim, and the completion phases, including the mobilization. And this usually takes 6 to 8 months, depending on the depth and breadth of the study. So during this time, we're not just focused on technical work. We're also continuously assessing the project's bankability and engaging with potential downstream funders. So we involve the downstream financing quite early, even as early as the project scoping stage, and we ensure their involvement throughout the project preparation process. After the study is completed, we support the city in preparing for the downstream financing requirements. And even after that, we stay involved through monitoring and evaluation to help ensure that the project delivers the intended impacts. Next slide. So this slide just highlights what our partners are saying about CDIA, specifically in the context of Tbilisi, Georgia. One of the key takeaways from that experience was the value of combining global expertise with strong local expertise, local knowledge. So partners in Georgia appreciated how CDI brought in international experience while also working closely with local experts to ensure the solutions are practical and context specific. There's a short YouTube video you can watch following this link. And yeah, next slide, please. So this slide features CDI's publication on climate infrastructure and your city. This offers practical insights for cities tackling climate challenges. The presentation will be shared with everyone. So if you're interested, you'll be able to download the publication through this link. Next. So this slide features a set of videos showcasing completed CDI projects. from transport in Kochi, India, to climate resilient infrastructure in Tbilisi, Georgia. These are great examples of how CDI works on the ground, combining technical expertise with strong partnerships. Please, I really encourage you to check them out. And after the session, the presentation will be shared with everyone again, so you'll have access to all of these links. So to end the presentation and also just managing my time here, here are a few project examples I'll run through very quickly for everyone's reference. Next. So in Pakistan, CDI supported the study of the Peshawar Bus Rapid Transit project. This has a focus on enhancing its bankability and ensuring long-term climate resilience. Our work in Pakistan helped structure the project so it could attract financing from ADB, AFD, EIB, and the national government sources from the government of KP. So this has led to $587 million of investments. Next. In India, we supported the Kochi Water Metro. So this work enabled the KFW to finance the $150 million project, which provides low carbon, climate resilient transport alternatives for the city. Next. In Georgia, CDI supported the modernization of the Tbilisi Metro, ensuring the project was well prepared and bankable for ADB financing of around 17 million. This project in particular improves safety, accessibility, and efficiency of the system, contributing to low carbon urban mobility and strengthening the city's climate resilience. Next. The Uzbekistan Integrated Urban Development Project, or IUDP, has been linked to $59 million investments from ADB. And this is where we supported 3 cities in Khiva, Jizak, and Yangier by upgrading critical infrastructure such as water supply, sanitation, and solid waste management. So through robust pre-feasibility studies and institutional capacity development, the project ensures financial sustainability while enhancing climate resilience. Next. So KPSIP, or the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Cities Improvement Program, this project has been linked to KPSIP from ADB, amounting $128 million in investments. We helped strengthen the bankability of key cities like Peshawar, Mardan, and Abbottabad by preparing integrated climate resilient urban infrastructure plans. Next. The Bhutan Green and Resilient Affordable Housing Advisory Project was supported. We provided around $500,000 of support and anchored this project on Asian Development Bank downstream investment of around $30 million. So through this project, we helped strengthen the National Housing Development Corporation and the local governments in 4 cities to deliver scalable, affordable housing solutions. Next. In Cambodia, CDI supported the project in Siem Reap cities, paving the way for climate resilient and a bankable urban transport solution through the introduction of an electric bus fleet. So by replacing aged gasoline-fueled vehicles with low-carbon e-buses, the initiative not only reduced greenhouse gas emissions, but also we enhanced the city's mobility and protected key city cultural heritage. Next. Next is a local project here in the Philippines. So in response to the sanitation challenges following Typhoon Haiyan, we supported the Tacloban city through this project. So by addressing the lack of wastewater infrastructure in relocated communities, the initiative mitigated water pollution risks and enhanced public health. Next slide. One of our most recent ones is Bangladesh support, where CDI supported the second phase of the Khulna water supply project by preparing studies that made the investment bankable, and we helped the city gain access to downstream financing from the Asian Development Bank to address salinity problem and water shortages issues during dry seasons. Next. So that's it. I hope you don't mind if I made it quite quick. I was worried the number of slides, but thank you for spending time with me today, and I hope the insights from CDI can help us spark ideas on how thoughtful planning and collaboration can lead to more resilient and investment-ready cities.
Thank you very much, Brian. I know we are tight on the schedule, but I think I would like to open a bit of discussions where the mayors can ask or follow up and maybe ask how to actually go towards the directions that you have presented. I saw Mayor Julaha from Hulu Selangor raising her hand. Mayor,
Hi.
please.
Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Brian, thank you for sharing. It's a very good exposure for us. I just want to know from you, just now you mentioned about the project like in Uzbekistan, India, and Philippines. So I would like to know, actually, who is the party that approached CDIA for the discussions, negotiation, and also the development of the bankable project? Is the municipal council like us involved, or actually the higher authority level like the federal government or state government that approach the CDIA for the discussion? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Yes, we are demand driven. So initially it was the cities. The cities usually it's the mayor who approaches CDIA, but quite recently, most of the projects that took off, it's not only the mayors who approached CDIA, but also the central government and potential downstream financing linkage. So, for example, if there is already an interest from the central government to have a project financed by, let's say, for example, KfW or ADB or the World Bank, sometimes that discussion takes place with all of them, the mayor, the central government, and the World Bank. So just to expand on that further, Honorable Mayor, one of CDI's key requirement for application is an application letter from the city, endorsement letter from central government. If it's usually in Southeast Asian countries, usually it's the planning ministry who endorses this application, and lastly and more importantly, we tend to require a clear and indicative link to downstream financing. So the city should already have potential plans on how to finance this so that we can continue the dialogue and see how we can provide that link. And just to highlight to everyone also and to preempt potential questions, hope you don't mind, Mahesti. So right now, CDI's current funding window is for this period of 2025 has already been fully committed. But for the coming year, starting 2026 onwards, we are working on the financing envelope for this period. So I suggest everyone to please subscribe to our CDI.Asia website, so you get the recent news, the latest news on how this develops.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brian. Is there any other burning questions from the honorable mayors present today? Yes, Mayor Alfredo, please.
Good morning, sir. Thank you again for the presentation. I just want to understand if the examples you provided, are there available links we could search and
Yes,
read further about it?
yes, Mr. Mayor. Actually, we are still working on it, but we have, if you check our website and CDI.Asia, all of the studies we've done are being uploaded to our website. So you could check it out, and yeah, I think it's a very wealthy resource for everyone, open to everyone.
Brian, if I'm allowed, in your website, there is a virtual clinics that is that
Yes.
thing still open and where mayors can register?
Yes, the virtual city clinics, we actually rolled this out during the pandemic because there has been no contact between the CDIA and the cities. So for future city clinics, we will be announcing in the CDI.Asia website. And also, good question. I mean, good suggest. I just thought about encouraging everyone to please join our mailing list so that everyone is up to date on how we organize these city clinics, virtual clinics.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Brian. If there is no other question, I would like to release you. I know you have a tight schedule today. So thank you very much for coming in and sharing in details about CDIA approach and the projects that you have been covering, and also further informations regarding the resources and how to approach CDIA and also on the virtual clinics. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And our next speaker is, I know Margot is already there. And Margot is city climate finance expert. I believe she works a lot on environmental governance and local green finance. And today she's actually going to talk about what this actually means by bankability when we're talking about bankable projects. And she will bring down examples and also tools that can help you assess like how whether your project is bankable, on how sort of like moving towards that directions. Margot, we have around 15 minutes for your presentations, and then follow up with discussion. We have like buffer for around 5 to 7 minutes. The floor is yours.
Perfect. And just stop me if I happen to overcome the time. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I think it doesn't seems to work. Otherwise, share just the slide there. Sure, should be okay. Because I can't share it.
Margot, we've made you co-host. You should be able to share. Do you see the sharing access?
Yeah, no, there is a system setting issue.
Okay, Cheyenne, please continue sharing then from our end. Margot, can you see the screen being shared now?
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, I think I saw you sharing the screen earlier and then it's disappeared.
Okay, let me try again. Sorry for that. Is it all right?
Yes, but this is on this presenter screen, which means that it's getting very small. Yes, this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so sorry for the short delay. I'm sure that most of you already heard many definitions about bankability, but I would like just to frame it a little bit differently today, to see it not just as another, I would say, checkbox to check to get access to financing, but really as your strengths to think about the project viability. And because I like to talk with picture, you can think of it as basically your project as a bridge. On the left side, you have all the issue, landfills versus waste, filthy air, and on the other side, basically your project outcome. Well, financing can be seen at the river, and bankability is what will consolidate your project strengths and help you bring your loan finances to cross the river. In financial term, we consider project bankability when a project has secured enough confidence in the eyes of financier that it will be able to achieve both financial and outcomes. So at the heart of bankability, there is two things. First, the notion of credibility of whether the project, the entity that would carry the project, but also this idea of risk return. So whether or not the project would be able to gain enough return to cover the project cost and financing cost, if any. And that's work for both, we say commercial or development financing. Even though they won't expect a specific return, they would need to ensure that the project will sustain over time. And I would say the balance between the risk and the expected return and how much of risk will be accepted and how much return will be expected from the financier depend on their profile. And on the left side, you can see ranging from a spectrum from profitability of the project to, I would say, eligibility from what would be expected from Green Climate Fund, who will have specific criteria on what kind of climate or social outcome would be expected. But I would say across the spectrum and increasingly ensuring that operational costs will be able to cover and that the project will self-sustain will be critical. So that's why bankability, whether or not your project will be considered as like commercial fit or not, is critical. Now, how do financiers look at bankability? What are those core questions? So they all have different grades and I would say analytic framework, but we can summarize and using 6 key questions. The first one is, of course, whether it's going to be technically feasible, whether the technology has already been tested, whether there is a right available infrastructure and resources. Second one is definitely the question of revenue stream, not only having revenue, but ensuring that they are stable over time, at least to cover operational cost. The third one is, of course, whether what are those risks, whether they are operational, political, financial, that may prevent the project to be completed or failing to achieve its targeted outcome by the timeline established. And the fourth one that is often neglected is what would be the entity through which finance would be channeled. We know that creditworthiness is a big issue for a lot of cities, but whether there another entity, whether the state-owned company or a municipality-owned company, there are sometimes a financial cooperative that could act as an intermediary for the municipality and ensuring that this entity is financially credible and that has sound track record. And the fifth one is also another one that is especially important for secondary cities, is the scale. Why? When we talk about scale, financing is a service and it comes with a cost and transaction cost. So for a lot, especially international financiers, thinking about scale and when there are projects, although they may provide a lot of impact, might be too small to be financed, and that requires city to think about aggregation, whether at a city level, pulling several projects together, or phasing the project over time so that you can increase the project size, or work together with other cities so that you can submit together a joint project. And the last one is how do those benefits come into play? It is precisely sometimes by being able to adjust the acceptability of the project, considering tangible and measurable outcome that sometimes can also replace or be accounted as a revenue stream. And I will give you some example after that. So I won't say too long on this slide, but if we need to think about project in terms of risk return, and that I would say that the basic equation that you need to think when you look at project bankability is precisely how do we tip the scale? And there are many levers to do that, both on the, I would say, the return side and the risk side. If you go on the risk side, so when we talk about risk, there are perceived risk and I would say real one. So perceived risk can be mitigated by a lot of approaches, whether it is ensuring the project into a long-term planning on multi-year budget, whether it is through feasibility study by strengthening the project credibility and financial fundamental and the quality of the technology, but also standards, a successful pilot, and ensure investor. Now, there is, of course, risk that can be difficult to mitigate on your own, and that sometimes need to be shared or transferred to other actors that can carry those risks. And that's where come into play, I would say, PPP, when you share different risks of the project across actors, or pooling the project together with cities to spread the risk, or isolating the risk, that is creating a specific entity that will manage the project that won't be the city. And that's what we call special purpose vehicle, if you're familiar with this term. And the last one is for those risks that are too difficult or can really not be shared, is to transfer to other actor or provide additional risk mitigation like guarantees or insurance. On the return side, there are, when we think about return, there's like two subcomponents. Revenue, so whether it is new revenue stream or existing one that need to be increased, and the cost lever. And again, and I think it's very important, especially when we talk about climate project, when we think about returns, is not necessarily money earned, it can be also money saved. So meaning earning that are quantified and that can be then ring-fenced and be used to reimburse a loan over time. That is an example that we see often in street lighting, a smart street lighting model, but also water efficiency, energy efficiency model. And in that, of course, like different revenue levers, you've probably explored or heard about it. But on the cost lever, and again, it comes at many different stages, is of course operational efficiency and the design of the project. So thinking about phasing the project to spread the cost over time, but also maybe considering bill procurement to decrease also procurement cost, using shared infrastructure and resources. So a lot of relevant, but the key messages is really how do you identify potential savings or earnings that could be used against or improve the risk return balance. Now, and what is specific with climate project is the importance of having measurable direct or indirect co-benefits. Why? Because like I said, avoided cost or cost saving can be translated into cash flow, so the equivalent of revenue. Second one is, you know, that there is an increasing number of opportunity to monetize indirect co-benefit of the project. Approach like land value capture or carbon credit are a great example. The third one is, of course, because it broadened the pool of financing, but also of potential instrument that you could leverage. So now we talk a lot about impact-linked instruments that could allow you to have better financial terms when you negotiate a loan that would be linked to key milestone, impact milestone of your project. And that could help you to have longer tenure, lower interest on the loans. And finally, enhance the risk mitigation narrative. So also framing that how climate resilience or adaptation project approach have also critical impact on risk mitigation also for the financing. Here, and I will focus then on specific project, but I just wanted to remind this, and I think those who took part in the Urban Act program have been already dealing with so-called enabling framework condition, is just to say that project bankability is not an ivory tower, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And yes, improving the risk-return profile of a project is important, but all the surrounding and enabling environment can help also increase access to funding and financing source. There is on the left side those that you can have more or less influence, and that needs cooperation with national government to improve regulatory framework, or I would say multi-governance coordination to fast track approval processes and so on and so forth. And that would determine the pool of financing you can legally have access to. And on the right side is where city can have more lever and improving precisely the transparency of the city's finance, having available data, clear management, long-term investment plan. That would also influence the quality and the cost of financing that cities are able to mobilize. Now, going into specific project and all those little yellow boxes that I introduced earlier can be translated into actual results. If we think about turn avoided costs into predictable cash flow, I think a lot of you have already, the most salient example is the one of a smart lighting retrofit project. That is the one that actually the first municipal PPP across Indonesia, but also Malaysia. And how does this affect the risk return equation? It is, of course, by being able to create an additional revenue stream. But also, and I think it's important, is the notion of having ring-fenced revenue. So having revenue stream to secure the project is important, but what is most important is to ensure that they're stable and secured over time, because financing will, of course, last for several 10 up to 20 years. So ESCO approach that's where you're able to quantify the actual impact directly from energy bill saving, but also potentially so other co-benefit that would create additional saving on your municipal budget. Quantifying this is definitely a game changer, and we see that in street lighting retrofit, how it has been became now, say, a mainstream project that an increasing number of financiers are willing to support. Another one is to monetize co-benefit. Just wanted to give this example of Indore in India, which has been recognized, I would say, the capital of carbon credit. And I find it interesting because it went through several stages. on how to monetize precisely methane reduction from the composting plant that they developed, but also became a pioneer to precisely influence regulatory framework and support extended production responsibility credit for also plastic recovery and other type of waste. And the last one, and I think it's the most interesting, and I think interesting also because it dated from several years ago, but it's now something that a lot of financiers are going back to, is how to put project to reach the question of like the right scale that I mentioned earlier, but also to be able to use de-risking instrument like guarantees for project to several cities. So this is an example of water revolving fund in the Philippines that basically group created a kind of platform that in which several cities could tap into on loans. And again, which you had the multi-layer guarantee system, and I won't go back too much into this detail, but that is basically what we call blended finance, is how do we reach the right scale to allow those complex structuring de-risking mechanism to come in and use in a more targeted manner funding and concessional finance to allow cities to mobilize private finance. Because city alone would hardly be able to mobilize private finance except for through PPP, but to leverage private finance at scale, and here they represent for up to 60% of all loans that have been provided to cities are critical. So again, think about this question of scale. And I think even for project preparation facility, which connect to downstream financing, which are, I would say, ticket size of often $5 million, will be also critical. Now, just a quick snapshot on how we have tried also to translate it into a pragmatic tool through the Urban Act program. It's something that is still being refined and being tested and reviewed, but we have developed, I would say, a basic tool to ask those questions across key project finance fundamental to help you understand how to basically improve this risk return scale. I think, yeah, so that is just a short demo that we have tried to at least to customize a little bit the question by sectors and make it easy with just multiple choice answers that should connect you with a kind of basic diagnostic and example of action or approaches that could be followed by city to improve the revenue risk return profile. I will stop here, but I will be more than happy to answer to any question that you may have. And if you want to ask me any additional question, you can send me an email here.
Thank you very much, Margot. Mayors, honorable mayors, if you have any questions for Margot. Will this, when will this tool be available, Margot? Or is it already there?
It's being reviewed precisely by sectoral expert.
Hello.
Because I've worked with, yeah.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
we can hear you.
we are from Nepal, Inarua municipality. That our mayor is here, and that we have already mailed you that due to the condition of our country, the Generation Z protest, our municipality is burned. So we could not able to join the meeting. For you can see our mayor and the condition of our municipality. This is the condition. Everything. So we are not able to join the meeting. Sorry for the is sorry. We want to say sorry for this.
Thank you very
Okay.
much for sharing with us.
Hi.
It's yes, mayors.
Hi, namaste, and good morning, every respectable mayor and participant. We are hardly request to you. We cannot also gone by the PNG protest program, and now we are going to redo this building. But I can came that program in Korea.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
Mayor.
bye.
So just to come back to the sessions, Mayor Alfredo, earlier you would like to ask the questions for Margot?
No, none actually. I just because my project right now is non-revenue, so I'm not sure how we will be able to still recover cost, but it's a necessary call this expense because of the sea level rise. So an entire island will be lost. I have to move 1,000 people. So we're still trying to figure out how to make it profitable or at the same time dignified for the families that's about to lose their homes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what I meant also when thinking bankability first, not just as profitability. And also that's often the case when you have, I would say, projects that are not bankable in the financial term, meaning that they won't be able to recover all the cost, but quantify expected impact precisely from disaster saving, from disaster risk management and budget, and other impacts that could be somehow quantified through proxy would also increase your project eligibility in the eyes of climate funders, not necessarily financiers. So that's why the risk return should be seen in within also this extended cost benefit analysis, not necessarily direct cost benefit, but also extended cost benefit and indirect one that your project will contribute to.
Yes, yes, Honorable Mayor Elisa.
Yeah, I want to know, how does the multi-layers guarantee structure of the PWRF enhance credit access for water service project about revolving water from Philippines?
So it's how can I say it shortly? So basically, it's mostly about, precisely when you talk about credit worthiness and a risk of a project to which financiers have not been necessarily exposed to, or doesn't have like a track record or other example. It's precisely providing a guarantee to a local commercial finance institution that will be more risk averse to finance this project. So in that case, you had the local government units, Guarantee Corporation in the Philippines that provide a guarantee to commercial finance institution up to a certain amount of loan disbursed. And behind that, you had also foregone USAID, but you have also a lot of guarantee provider out there. And I was currently in a meeting with Public Development Bank that are increasingly developing guarantee product, also to guarantee those government entities. So that's where you have like a multi-layer guarantee to have basically multiple buffer to cover again potential losses. And the idea usually with this kind of structure is to demonstrate precisely that those projects have impacts that are that provide demonstrated impact and also cost saving to the municipality budget, or provide substantial benefits, or can be viable. So I have another example, especially in the case of like agroecology, where you had like an agroecology fund with a guarantee provided by AFD, the French Development Bank, and the guarantee has been used by less than 1%. And by having those examples, straighten also the experience and the confidence of commercial finance institutions to finance similar projects.
And what impact has the PWRF had on the overall water service infrastructure in the Philippines since its operational launch?
I think in terms of size, it provided more than $300 million across 37 projects that will very unlikely have been able to secure individually concessional finance, let alone commercial finance.
Okay.
And it's also, beside that, and I forgot to mention, that it was like loans that were co-financed. So you had a portion provided by commercial finance institution into the revolving fund, and another one by the Development Bank of the Philippines. And the Development Bank of the Philippines has been able to provide a share in concessional loans, thanks to, again, funding from JICA. That allowed to provide also more affordable loan below market rate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Margot, and thank you very much, mayors. And I think we would like to move to the next sessions. If you have any further questions, feel free to send your questions to the Secretariat, and we'll be happy to forward it to Margot for more details. Thank you. And for our next speaker, we'll the first session is we were sharing about project preparations under the CDIA, and then Margot elaborate further more on what it's mean by bankability of projects. And then our next speaker is Astrid Haas. She will talk about project preparation processes in more detail. So Astrid is actually, she's an urban economist, which work that span both research and practice. So she has worked extensively on municipal infrastructure finance. And so she would be able to, later on, if you have questions in more strategical planning level with regard to municipal finance. Astrid, you have around, I believe, 28 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Oki, for inviting me. Honorable mayors, very nice to meet you. Good morning. I am actually right now speaking to you from South Africa, where I'm just about to teach a class in urban finance as well. So you can see this is my passion, is to understand how you can support mayors like yourself in being able to make your projects realized. And I really appreciate going after Margot's very comprehensive presentation, because she talked a lot about bankability. But I also just was listening to the conversation, and I heard the Honorable Mayor from Del Carmen mention that, you know, his is not necessarily a bankable project or one that will generate revenue. And so I want to take a little bit of a step back and talk about the fact that project preparation is obviously important so that you can attract investors. But I think it's just as important to do project preparation well for those projects that you're going to finance from your own balance sheet. As custodians of public money, you want to make sure that that public money is being used as efficiently and as effectively as possible. And essentially what the project preparation process helps you do is understand how you can do your projects in the best way, even whether they are the best projects, right? And if projects fail during the project preparation process, that's not a problem. That just shows maybe it wasn't the right project or in the right structure. That's what a project preparation process is there to do. It's to de-risk the project before you spend the money on it, right? Now, if you're going to do project preparation well, it also costs money. And the reason it costs money, and if we can move to the next slide, is that it's a very long process. So you can see it starts with an idea. and it goes through a very long cycle from the idea to conceptualization to pre-feasibility to feasibility to structuring and finance to approval and procurement. And only then do you get to implementation, right? And so if you're going to go through all of these processes, they cost money as well. And each stage is a stage where a project may continue or a project may fail and you don't move forward to the next stage. Now, in the jargon that is used in project preparation, the part of the cycle that goes from idea to about structuring and financing, those are called upstream activities, right? Those require resources, but as mayors, you don't want to borrow, you don't want to borrow money that you have to pay back for those resources because you don't know yet whether the project will be realized. So actually what you would like to find is grant money, money that you don't have to repay to be able to do that. Also, the other thing to notice about upstream activities, particularly if you're going to start getting investors involved, those upstream activities are critically important that you go through them and you go through them well. But it doesn't mean that because you've gone through them, that it will necessarily mean that you will actually, your project will be implemented. Unfortunately, there's still hurdles along the way. And finally, the other part to note about this, I've shown it as a flow diagram. And structuring and financing comes, second, third to last. But, and this is a very big but, some financiers will like all of those other stages before structuring and financing to happen in a certain way. And they have their own project preparation, cycles. So it's important to understand what you're looking at in terms of finance before you start project preparation, to be able to make sure that you're following the cycle the way that that financier would like that. And I'll discuss that a little bit more at the end. Now, on the downstream side, so once you've structured, you've gone through all the process, done your pre-feasibility, feasibility, and structuring and finance, you get to a point where it's less resource intensive because now you have a nice project that is ready to implement, and you also know that you can implement it. But again, it still requires resources for procurement, and implementation is a stage that I won't talk about a lot here, but I think it's also important to remember, even once you procure the project, if your project involves things like land, if your project involves things like regulations, you have to make sure that all of those things by that point in time are in place. So the land has been secured or the regulations are in place, otherwise implementation can't happen. So the reason I tried to break this down for you in this way is to show you what happens at each of these stages, to demystify a little bit about what happens at each of these stages. Because I think we talk about these terms a lot, like let's do a feasibility study, let's do a pre-feasibility study, but it's sometimes difficult to fully understand what is there. So I want to unpack that a little bit more. Next slide, please. Before we go into unpacking that, there are entities, and I'll talk about them later, how you find them, called project preparation facilities, who can help you with all of these, stages for a specific project. And what they do is they provide grant financing and technical assistance to help bring the idea from idea to financial close. Now, different project preparation facilities work on different part of those stages, and so identifying the right one is key. And they also don't do other things aside from technical assistance. They do other things aside from technical assistance and financial support. They can do things like capacity building as well, policy and regulatory support, transaction support for projects that are going to be transacted. But I will go into that a little bit later when we talk about your project. So let's start with the cycle. Next slide, please. And please feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, so I saw, Honorable Mayors, you've done a lot of homework for this academy. That was very helpful to see because I got to see some of your own projects that you're thinking of. And for many of you, you have an idea and you're currently at the stage of moving from idea to conceptualization. Now, what does that mean? That means that you know what you want to do. You have done your homework in terms of writing it up. You've identified a need and you've identified a potential solution. You've identified what already exists. And so you're really now shaping that need a little bit more to be able to start preparing those projects to move forward. Now, some of you have looked at things like consultancies and plans, which don't necessarily need project preparation. These are really for the projects that involve infrastructure that I'm talking about. But you're currently probably at this stage. Now, this stage is an extremely important stage as well, because the idea is which ideas now start moving through the cycle, right? So you have to decide now for yourself, is your project one that needs to go through project preparation because you have infrastructure, or is your project one that you are able to, that doesn't need to be prepared because actually all you're procuring are consultancy services to help you with some technical assistance projects. So this is the stage that many of you are at. Now, if we think now for those who have infrastructure projects, and we go to the next slide, and these slides will be shared with you, which is why I've tried to put as much information on them in terms of the slide. So now you have your idea, you've done your homework, and you want to now see, is your idea, let's take it to the next stage, please, next slide. Okay, now we need to outline that idea a little bit further. Okay, we have now our 2-pager or a 3-pager that we put together for the Mayor's Academy. And now we need to start seeing what type of data we have. What's there? Do we have initial demand assessments? Have we already identified the sites where this infrastructure is going to be taking place? Do we know who the key stakeholders are? Have we involved the key stakeholders in discussion? Did we already look at what the major environmental social issues are? This movement from conceptualization to pre-feasibility already requires a lot of work. And there are certain project preparation facilities that help you solely take your idea and then help you shape your idea in a way that is now shaped as a project. And again, this is not just for projects that are bankable. This is for any project where you want to invest money into. It could be, particularly if you have an adaptation project, for example, that is not likely to be bankable. You still want to make sure your project is very well prepared. And so these activities are very critical because a lot of projects actually fail at this stage. You have a good idea, but then when you start to define it, you start to realize, oh, maybe there's not so much demand for the idea that I had. Maybe the sites that I was deciding on do not exist. And again, that's okay. The whole point of this cycle is to really stress test your projects and see which are the best projects that are going to get through, therefore that they should be financed. Another thing to really emphasize on this stage is that all the projects that are chosen, and especially if you're looking for external finance, they should be linked to your longer term plans. So people at this stage, at the pre-feasibility study stage, one of the screening pieces will be, is this in your city plan? Is this in your climate action plan? Is this in your long-term vision? And the reason is that if, especially external partners, are going to put money in your project, they want to know that this is actually a long-term vision or a long-term desire for the city to get this financed, because they don't want to come all the way and start putting money in, and then the next year, there's another priority for the city. So at this pre-feasibility study stage, there's a lot of linkages that are done to your own plans and your own visions. So it's very good to try and already think through where you locate these within your long-term visioning as a city. Next slide, please. Right, so now you have gone from your idea. You've now done the basic outlines of your idea. You found them in your visions, you found your sites, you know that this is feasible. You actually now want to move forward and see whether this is in fact technically feasible, financially feasible, environmentally feasible, and socially feasible. And maybe I don't know whether it's possible, but I want to just see whether any mayors can think about of all of the technical, environmental, financial, and institutional, what do you think is actually the easiest feasibility study to do? Is there any mayor who has any idea? I'm trying to get my screen up. There we go. So the easiest feasibility studies are actually the technical ones, right? In a sense, we know we can find out from an engineer how much concrete is needed. We can find out how many pipes are needed. We can find out all of these things, and they shape what the finance is. But what we often underestimate or still struggle to do, and Margaret referred to it a little bit in her previous presentation, is how to do environmental and social feasibility studies. How do we truly know what is going to have a positive environmental impact? How do we truly know what's going to have a positive social impact? And the reason this is important is that sometimes your benefits on the environmental, as Margaret mentioned, your benefits on a social and environmental side are going to be much higher. But if those are not taken into account, the project is not going to look feasible. So you really need to do this stage well. And there, again, some project preparation facilities focus solely on the feasibility study stage. After feasibility study, you get to structuring and finance. And here you develop, as I said, you should, if you know who your financier is, then you should go through all the stages with them before. If you don't have a financier in mind, this is also a really important part to develop your financing strategy. Are you going to get external finance? Is it revenue generating? Are you going to do this on balance sheet or off balance sheet? And what are the different models that you have in terms of creating your financing structure? At this stage, and unfortunately, this is the stage where now most projects will be screened out of the project preparation process. So many will have pre-feasibility studies, many will have feasibility studies, but when it gets to financing, that's when many will stall. Because then they realize that maybe the project they had conceived does not have the revenue flows they expected or otherwise, or maybe there's not enough budget in a city budget if it's going to be an on-budget one. So unfortunately, this is the stage that is probably the toughest to overcome. But once you overcome this stage, then you start going into the downstream activities. So if you go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, I should also say, this is from Margaret's project preparation tool. And the idea is to show that the costs that you have to take into account are not just the capital costs by any means. What you have to budget for are operational costs. You have to budget for project preparation costs. You have to budget for contingency, like what happens if it doesn't go quite as you planned. You have to budget, if it's a climate project, you have to budget for monitoring systems to be able to do GHG emissions. And then the costs that often people under budget for are legal, transaction, and actual financing costs, because these can be quite high. You know, what it's going to cost you to help get someone who can, let's say, negotiate with the private sector if you have a public-private partnership. So these are all costs you have to take into account. The final stage then is approval and procurement. So now if you can get to this stage, you're very close to getting your project actually implemented. And how you do your approvals will depend on what your internal processes are, as you know, whether you need municipal council approval, whether it needs to go to different procurement authorities. That's when you get your detailed implementation plan, and then you can go to implementation. But as I said at the beginning, even at implementation, you have to make sure all the relevant regulations are in place, all the relevant land is there, so it can actually be implemented. So that's a very broad overview of the project preparation process. And I think if I had more time, I would go into more detail. But I think what would be more useful for you now is if we go into some of your projects and we see how you can find support for your project preparation for your project. If you could go to the next slide, please. So finding support is about identifying the right project preparation facility. Next slide. And there are hundreds of project preparation facilities. Project preparation facilities tend to like to support projects that are bankable. And they tend to like to support projects that are $5 million USD and above. because the reason is that they spend money to support feasibility studies, pre-feasibility studies, feasibility studies, structuring and financing. And they want to make sure that all those administrative costs are taken into account. So if you want to understand how much project preparation costs going through that whole cycle, it can be about 1 to 10% of your total project. So it is quite a substantial amount. So getting a project preparation facility involved is an excellent way forward, because they usually have monies to support you to take care of that particular cost. But it's only really viable for projects that are above about 5 million, and they generally prefer projects that are 10 million and above. So next slide. And as I said, there are hundreds of project preparation facilities across the globe, and selecting the right one is really how you need to be able to move forward. So, does it have the right geographic focus? Does it actually work with the country your city is located in? Is it working with the sector your project is in? They usually work with infrastructure and not services. Where is your project right now, right? Some work at getting it from concept to pre-feasibility, some working from getting pre-feasibility implementation. So knowing where your project is really important. Are you looking for money, for example, from the Asian Development Bank? Then you should look at the Asian Development Bank's project preparation facility. Or do you not know yet where your financing is going to come from? Then you can look at a more general project preparation facility. And finally, does your project have co-benefits? Because some project preparation facilities focus on co-benefit. So I want to show a resource that I think is extremely useful. It's the next slide, that was put together by CCFLA, and it says Project Preparation Resource Directory. I've hyperlinked it in this slide, so whenever you get the slide, you can just click the link, or you can just Google Project Preparation Facilities CCFLA, and it will come up. And this is actually the most comprehensive directory of all project preparation facilities in the world. But what's even better is that it has a search function that allows you to use your own understanding of your own projects to search for which project preparation facility is useful. The next slide. So I used 3 projects from the mayors who have submitted to show how this can happen. So this is from the mayor of Male City, is looking at a project that involves various types of infrastructure, so electric buses, water taxis, smart traffic systems, digital ticketing. We can assume these infrastructures are going to cost more than $5 million. If you think about buses, ferries, buses, water taxis, smart traffic systems, digital ticketing. It may be that they have to, maybe they'll be prepared as one project, maybe they'll be prepared as separate projects. The mayor of Male has their concept that they've now submitted to the Asia Pacific Mayors Academy. So if you look, this is a screenshot on the right-hand side of their screen, which is a screenshot from the directory of CCFLA. So you see I've just indicated the country, Maldives, indicated the sector, transport and mobility, and indicated that they're at the concept and design stage. And you can see there's 11 project preparation facilities that come up that would work with the Maldives in transport and mobility and moving it from concept and design stage, right? And so now the team in Male City can go through those project preparation facilities and see which one maybe they want to contact because it most relates to what they want to do, right? And you can see CDIA, who was just presenting before Margot, is there. The City Climate Gap Fund. The Gap Fund is one of the biggest project preparation facilities that moves from conceptualization to pre-feasibility. So you see there's all these different there's all these different options there. Now, if we go to the next example that I chose, so I chose the mayor from Banda Aceh. So the Banda Aceh proposal is very interesting because it includes a suite of solutions. So there's amongst other things, you have drainage, you have clean, you have regulations, you have spatial planning, but you also have infrastructure within your solutions that you've looked at, right? And so if I think about when I looked at your proposal, when I think about your proposal, particularly those infrastructures would need to be prepared to be able to look for financing, right? Now, in your particular proposal, you said that they're going to be financed by the public budget, which is fine. But as I said, you know, with project preparation, it's also important that things that are financed by the public budget are prepared properly. But there also may be other financing options, right? So I just took from your proposal, I took out the particular infrastructures that I could see. So there were early warning systems, retention ponds, river and canal rehabilitation, sustainable drainage technology. Many of these are sort of adaptation, right? So they're not necessarily going to be bankable, but there's a lot of adaptation finance as well that is around. So now what I've done on this project preparation facility directory, I put in Indonesia, I put in water, sanitation, and waste. You're also at your concept stage, so moving from concept to pre-feasibility. And here you see there are different project preparation facilities that are relevant to you than are relevant previously to the ones that I showed for Male in the Maldives, right? So there's 4 times 3, so there's 12 project preparation facilities here that you could potentially look at that may be useful for you to look at that. The final concept note that I am just going to use as an example, and all of you can have a look at this, and this is a public resource online. But I looked at, and I know that the Honorable Mayor of Inarua just said that unfortunately he can't be with us because they have very pressing issues. But the reason I picked this project is this project also has some elements of infrastructure, so smart bins, composting centers, biogas digesters. But Inarua is actually a very small city. So this is potentially a project that would fall under the $5 million mark, right? I don't know, I'm guessing just based on the size of the city and the information in the concept note. So for a mayor of Inarua, or for a project like this, you would probably want to look at other cities in Nepal who want to do similar projects so that you can work together and make the project size bigger, right? Because as I said, project preparation facilities would prefer only to work with projects that are of a bigger size. But even here again, so I put in Nepal, I put in water and sanitation and waste concept, and these are the ones that come up in that case. But in the case of Inarua, or in the case of any of you who have smaller projects, really the idea is then how do you partner and with other cities to aggregate your projects to make sure that they are sort of other cities who may be wanting to do the same with you. So these are just some examples. This is a public resource. But I think the other thing I want to show on this public resource, next slide, and I'll be done shortly, is that it's not just about project preparation facilities are not just about moving from concept to pre-feasibility. They can help you do much more. So if you scroll further down the page, there's another list that says you can tick things like, okay, are you looking for capacity development? Are you looking for creation of partnerships? Do you need a development of a business case, right? Do you want to highlight the project to private investors? Are you looking for investment project structuring? Or are you at the stage where you still don't even know really how to fully define your project, even before? So you have an idea, but you now want to define it as a project idea. So there's all of this support that is out there. The idea is, you are mayors who are extremely busy. You don't have a lot of time. So it's really important that you target the support that is right for what you're looking for. And resources like this directory help you filter through all the noise to get maybe what is most useful for you in terms of preparing your project. My final concluding slide. Next slide. Next slide. So my key message here is project preparation takes place in several stages. It's not just about bankable projects. It's really about getting your project from its vision to actual implementation, making sure that it is feasible, it is viable, it is in the best interest, and that you are spending money in the best way. Each stage of doing this costs money, but it is essential to move forward the project towards financing and making sure that the project is actually feasible. Preparation alone is not enough, right? There's many other, you want to have good preparation, but you also want to make sure that the project is part of your vision, part of your climate action plan, responds to the needs of the people. And PPFs, project preparation facilities, play a critical role here. right? Because they can help you provide the technical assistance and the grant funding to do that. However, there are hundreds of PPFs around the world, right? And you're very busy. And so you don't want to go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and you don't want to submit hundreds of applications and then you just come back, or you don't, and they say, well, actually, this was not the relevant one. So doing your research up front and seeing which is the right project preparation facility for your project based on things like geographic focus, sector focus, stage of project you're at. And this is where the project preparation facility directory that I showed you can be extremely helpful as a starting point. So, okay, I rushed through, but I made it with 1 minute overtime, okay? But I hope that was useful. Please, please do feel free to I don't know whether we have any time for questions. I'm super happy to answer questions. I'm super happy to receive any emails with questions, but thank you very much for giving me the space. And I hope that's useful to the mayors.
Thank you very much, Astrid. No, I think we can open the floor. I know mayors usually have a burning questions or things to clarify with the expert. Mayors, the floor is yours if you have any other questions for Astrid. But it's really extremely helpful that you bring in all these repository where the mayor can actually look at the project preparation facilities, because as you mentioned, there's so many of them and it's difficult to navigate and it's not necessarily the right one. Mayor Eliza, you have a questions for Astrid?
Yeah. Astrid, thank you very much for your presentation. It's very helpful. And I want to know how are risks evaluated during the pre-feasibility and feasibility stage of the project?
How, sorry, can you repeat that? How, what is evaluated?
How are risks evaluated during the pre-feasibility and feasibility stage of the project? And what factor should be considered when deciding on the appropriate funding model for a project?
Okay, that's an excellent question, right? So sometimes you don't know the appropriate funding model until you've gone through all the pre-feasibility, feasibility. But sometimes you know upfront that certain funding models are not going to be possible, right? So for example, in your Honorable Mayor, in your project, these are not revenue generating infrastructures that you're proposing. They are adaptation infrastructures. Yeah. So you're not going to be able to necessarily attract maybe private investors who want to make a return, and that's fine, right? Like that's absolutely fine. But that means you're going to look at funding possibilities and project preparation facilities, for example, that work with adaptation finance, because adaptation finance is usually grant finance, right? So you can already tell sometimes by your project itself whether it's going to generate revenue, right? For the mayor of Male, for example, who has a bus, maybe the mayor of Male doesn't know yet whether they are going to charge, how much they're going to charge for tickets for the bus and whether that bus is going to generate revenue. Maybe they only find that out in the feasibility study stage. But for yourself, you know that your infrastructures are not going to generate revenue. That's fine. So you know that you're going to look at adaptation finance or you're going to look at your public budget. So that's the direction you will take it. Now, at the pre-feasibility stage, right, the questions that really are asked is, okay, there is an idea and we're taking it to a project. Is this project even something that could happen, right? Given everything that we know it's going to need. So if you need, let's say, land, or you have a flood, you have an early warning system, is this technology even available? Those types of things, right? It's the bigger questions. If the answer to that question is yes, then it will move forward. If the answer to that question is no, then you go back to the drawing board and think, okay, what's another idea that could help resolve the same problem that I'm looking at? Once you get to the feasibility study stage, it's going much more into the details, right? It's doing all the costs, it's doing the risk benefit analysis, it's doing the environmental and social impact analysis. Any of those things could say, okay, this is great. No, the project can move on. We have a good feasibility study. Or it can say, for example, oh, wow, this project is too environmentally risky or there's too many people who will be displaced. But we've only found out now because we've only done the detailed design now. Okay, we're not going to move forward with the project, right? That's fine because now you know you have more information on which you can make your decision on, right? So there are different factors at different stages that will either say, okay, yes, the project will move forward to the next stage, or no, the project as we conceived it is maybe we need to go back a stage and think of something different.
Thank you, Astrid. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Jadi bagus sekali, memang terkoneknya dia juga bagus. Jadi yang ibu tanyakan tadi.
Is there any other questions from the mayors? If not, the secretary will be happy to receive further questions from the mayor, and then we'll be relayed to you, Astrid, if that's fine.
Wonderful. No, absolutely. And thank you so much for your time. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you very
all
much,
the honorable
Astrid.
mayors.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all those resourceful informations, and good luck for your class next.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to teach now. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
So before we move to the break, I think Kurt will have some announcement for the mayors for their preparations for the graduation sessions next week. Kurt.
Thank you very much, Oki. And while I'm on, let me thank Astrid and Margot and everybody who's actually participated in this session. The whole discussion about bankable projects and initiatives really leads into the final phase of this academy, which is the initiatives and the designed initiatives. So all of you should have received, based on the input and the materials that you put together, the draft posters, and have commented on them, and those will be what you present next week at the graduation ceremony in Goyang. We ask that you be very concise and know the initiative, have the answers to the questions that you would, I think, anticipate at this point. I do want to just mention one thing about this first session. While the session has really focused on bankable projects and project preparation and initiatives, there are some broader issues that will be addressed in the subsequent session after the break. So in parallel, you really need to also think about what are the fiscal reforms to get your entire house, financial house, in order. So you may have the best project or initiative that could be very feasible, very bankable as a standalone. But investors don't look only at a project. They look really at your overall capacity to finance and implement. So the discussion in the subsequent session about own source revenue. Are you optimizing own source revenue? Do you have the fiscal reforms in place? What is the overall financial management of the city? And is that being managed effectively? So again, while the discussion about a bankable project and initiative is critically important as it relates to your individual initiatives, you should still think about kind of the broader picture. For instance, bond underwriters, whether they're looking at a general obligation bond or a revenue bond to finance a particular initiative, look much more broadly. They'll look at the tax collection system. What is the projection for future taxes, whether there are fiscal regimes in place to collect those taxes and fees and other sources of revenue. And they'll also look at leakage. Is there a lack of compliance within the city? Those are issues that come in, and you have to work on those in parallel to whatever bankable project or initiative that you're looking at. And some of the speakers this afternoon, I know, will address issues of optimizing own source revenue. So first, thank you again for your participation in the first half of this session. I'll turn it back to Oki, who will introduce the break, and then we'll come back and continue the discussion. And we look forward to seeing you next week in Goyang to present the initiatives. Thanks. Oki, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Kurt. I wouldn't want it to be standing between you and the break. So I think this should be updated. Let's have like around 5 to maximize what the time we have for the second half of the session. So let's get back at 12:45. See you. Welcome back, honorable mayors. I'm sorry that I fully understood that our break is really, really short of 5 minutes. So I sincerely hope you're back behind the screen for the second half of the sessions. So if we can move to the next slide, if the secretariat is already back. Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. So before, as Kurt mentions, before we talk in more details about own source revenue and financial reforms and management, especially related to your initiative, we would like to invite Dr. Junko Akagi from IHS Kitakyushu Urban Center. So Junko has been engaged in the work that related to GHG inventories, and she worked a lot in the formation of zero carbon cities and the projects that promote the transfer to low carbon technology at the city level. So today she will talk a bit on the city-to-city collaborations and GCM project preparation and implementations, which might be another pathway for your city to consider, especially if your city is related to the GCM project. Junko, we have around 15 minutes for your presentations, and then we can follow up with a discussions. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you very much. Can I share my screen? Okay.
I believe, yes, you can share your screen.
Yes, so thank you very much for the introduction. So I'm Junko Akagi. I'm from the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, Japan. It's called IHS, but located in a satellite office in Kitakyushu City in Japan. And today I'd like to introduce city-to-city collaboration and also JCM project preparation and implementation. That's both Japanese government initiatives, but I work together with the Japanese government so closely as a research institute. So I'd like to introduce the framework of these projects or program, and also some case studies for your reference. Okay, just again, the introduction to the Japanese government initiatives, JCM and city-to-city collaboration project, a program, and also how to utilize them for urban development. So let me first introduce the JCM, which is called Joint Crediting Mechanism. That's Japan's initiative for promoting technology and knowledge transfer to developing countries. And objectives are decarbonization and also market mechanism. It's a Paris Agreement Article 6.1, and also promoting SDGs. And this market mechanism is a kind of economic way of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by updating, facilities and equipments and so on. So we want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, not only in Japan, but also partner countries in an economic effective way, financially effective manner. So far, we have established kind of partnership agreement with 31 countries as of this month of this year, actually. Last month, we welcomed India as a new partner country, but the flags of partner countries are indicated in this slide. But let me introduce the mechanism of this JCM. Basically, Japan, the Japanese government and partner country, let's say one of these 31 countries, make an agreement, bilateral agreement to implement this joint crediting mechanism. What we do is the Japanese private companies basically try to, develop the JCM project in partner country in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Then the Japanese government covers maximum half of the initial costs of introducing zero carbon or low carbon equipment in partner country. So the partner country can, get the low carbon equipments or facilities by not investing 100% of the initial costs, so they can save money, right? Then, but however, we somehow implement the JCM projects together. It's we do not ask just partner countries to implement project everything, but Japanese private sector and also partner countries private sector work together and implement this joint JCM projects together. Then also conduct the monitoring. So MRV, measurement, reporting, and verification together in a robust manner. Then the amount of greenhouse gas emissions reduced by implementing these JCM projects can be regarded as JCM credits and then shared between these two cities. So the Japanese government pays initial cost money, maximum half, but in return, they want to get the JCM credits. So partner country can get the new equipment in a cost-effective manner. At the same time, they can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So in this way, it's a kind of win-win relationship can be established. So we have more than 10-year history of this JCM projects. Then there are already several JCM model projects. Actually, nearly more than 200 projects already established over the past 10 years in 29 countries, I think. So as I mentioned, the Japanese government provide financial support, the equipment and services to reduce energy-related CO2 emissions. So examples of target sectors are like energy efficiency, effective use of energy, renewable energy, waste handling and disposal, and transportation. And I think for local governments, maybe the waste handling and disposals are kind of priority area for urban development. But this JCM model projects, as long as the project can reduce CO2 emissions, it can be regarded as JCM model projects. And as I mentioned, subsidy rate is maximum half of the initial costs. The implementation system of this JCM is, the project is run by international consortium. And as illustrated here, the international consortium is a joint implementation between Japanese entity A and JCM partner country entity B. Both are basically private sector usually, but they make an agreement to implement JCM projects together. Then they get financial support from the Ministry of the Environment of Japan to introduce new equipment, then reduce, monitor the CO2 emission reduction amount, then create a JCM credits in the end. But of course, they cannot start from this stage, right? So they always need to have feasibility studies in advance for preparatory study, preparatory stage. So for that stage, we offer a city-to-city collaboration program I will touch upon later. But so far, this JCM project, more than 200 projects have been established. Sorry, I didn't update for this year, but until last year, already so much projects have been established, and the popular countries are like Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, but you can also recognize other projects in other partner countries as well. So now I come to the city-to-city collaboration program. the Japanese government supports the feasibility studies of JCM projects, but the studies are implemented under the intercity collaboration framework. For example, sister city or memorandum of understanding, letter of interest, any format is fine, but at least we need Japanese local government and partner city, let's say government, local government. And also this program is not only the city-to-city collaboration, but also the public-private partnership that is also important. So the local governments work together with the private companies. And you can see here the program outline. The company in Japan and local government in Japan work together and have a close communication with partner city or regions. We call partner cities, but it doesn't necessarily be cities, but it can be also region scale. But what we can do is basically it's a feasibility studies. So the Ministry of the Environment provide financial support for this feasibility studies for this group. Then they conduct the feasibility study of JCM and also policy dialogues between these two cities, or sometimes the Japanese government provides some advice or support for system development for implementing JCM projects. Also, it's a good opportunity for capacity building because daily communication would expand the knowledge in regards to the low carbon project development. In this way, we try to build the momentum for creating zero carbon societies. So as you can see, after this city-to-city collaboration program, we hopefully private sector moves to the JCM model projects and implement project. Otherwise, they can also continue business in the private companies, or they can use additional agencies' financial support as an exit strategies. So the importance of this city-to-city collaboration is a multi-stakeholder approach to create multi-benefits. So for example, you can see this is the Japan side and partner country side. And these are two countries. It's a bilateral agreement on JCM, but underneath of this framework, there are local governments in Japan and local government in partner city. Then together with companies, they try to find out good or potential JCM projects. And also the local governments together can do the policy dialogues or information exchange together. And there is a kind of intermediate, usually Japanese companies or Japanese research institutes. They support the implementation of this communication and also project development. The advantage of this city-to-city collaboration is the kind of package information and knowledge transfer, because it's a working multi-stakeholder approach. So the policy and also the technology information, everything is transferred to the partner city as long as they wish to get. It's not only for the sales from the Japanese side, but it's a joint implementation between these two cities. The area is not only decarbonization, but also waste management, pollution control, capacity building, and more. Anything related to SDGs are also in the scope of this study of city-to-city collaboration program. And so far, we expanded the network and developed the community. There are so many over the past 10 years, but for this year, 25 pairing projects are running, and it's selected every year. But once it's selected, it can the study can continue for 3 years maximum. And some example, I just focus on the, let's say, Ehime Prefecture and Gorontalo Province, Indonesia. It's these two regions made an agreement they concluded the MOU regarding the city-to-city collaboration program. And then now they are conducting the basic or feasibility studies of JCM projects in the area of, like, for example, leachate treatment project at final disposal site, or domestic wastewater treatment project, exchange projects in agriculture and fishery field, green hospital plan, and so on. The scope you can see is a kind of very wide range. So we conduct a project in the context of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but you can add on many things in the local context, because this program is supporting developing the sustainable city development. Then let me touch upon the success factors of this program. It's about mutual understanding is very crucial, like good communication, multi-stakeholder approach, vision sharing, and sometimes characteristics of cities are important, because some cities are more industry oriented, some cities more like agriculture oriented. Mismatching doesn't work, of course. So that kind of matching is very critical. And as I mentioned, it's a joint implementation. So communication with local stakeholders is important. Sometimes work together with data collection or momentum creation and law and regulations. We sometimes work on to address challenges related laws and regulations to realize the JCM projects. And finally, I have also support the networking and capacity building. We organize seminar, and next one is coming in February next year in Ehime. So we cannot invite everybody, to the Ehime, but you can watch online because there is live streaming. So please check out this event to get to know about this program more details. So how to join the city-to-city collaboration program? I recommend you to consult with your Japanese acquaintances, like sister city or business partners, or consultation with the local stakeholders who have connections with Japanese stakeholders, because intermediators are Japanese companies. So yes, and that's basically what I wanted to tell today. Okay, so thank you very much. Sorry, maybe I'm behind the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Junko. I would like to welcome questions from the mayors, especially I think there is some interest if they would like to join these city-to-city collaborations. Mayors, please. I actually saw the comments from Honorable Mayor Alfredo from Del Carmen. He was asking that if the mayors can do this city-to-city collaboration framework from all the participating Asia Pacific Mayors Academy local governments, or is it has to be like individual city to city, and then they need to have like a partner city in Japan?
Yeah, it's always necessary to develop the city twining between Japanese local government and partner city in the JCM partner countries. So this 31, countries, and plus Malaysia for some reasons, because it's a feasibility studies. But yes, it's to submit the proposal for this program, the two city names needs to be indicated. One is Japanese local government name and partner city name. So just standalone city cannot apply to this program.
Understood. And also for that the event in Ehime next year, do the mayors need already to have like the potential sister cities already by that time?
No, I'm just saying that to learn more about
Okay.
details of this program. It's just an open seminar for everyone. So if you are interested in just, watch the program, then if you have some guests from, Japanese companies or Japanese cities, then why don't you talk to them? I heard this kind of program exists in Japan, and how can we do that together or something? That would be the approach. And I heard some mayors join the kind of city network, for example, like Resilient 100 City program or initiatives, or like C40. Those two cities mayors talked there on site at the event, then initiated this program. That kind of case I heard before.
Okay. Thank you very much, Junko. Is there any other questions from the mayors? If not, once again, thank you very much, Junko, for always very generous with your sharing of informations and knowledge. Thank you very much. Can we have a next slide, please? So this is the last sessions that we have for today. So we have interactive plenary sessions. You have, first of all, thank you very much, mayors. We would like to, for preparing the homework. So there are so much information that we require from you, especially the financial data points and also your self-assessments with regard to your CTOSR. So the secretariat today have received around 6 homework submissions, and we have around, I believe, 50 minutes maximum time that allocated for the plenary sessions, and we have 2 experts joining us today. And I would like to welcome back Mr. Leonard Fleck from UN Habitat. Leonard is a public finance and economic development specialist. And he's a program manager with the UN Habitat. And he's been with us from the Mayor's Academy related to the urban finance from the conceptual of the academy back, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. And Dr. Puspa Patak, we're welcoming her back. You met her 2 weeks ago. She's a senior visiting fellows at the CPR India, and her sessions 2 weeks ago was about the OSR. And today, we have shared with them your homework, both your homework and your initiative, so that they can get through and give you sound advice with regard to your finance modalities. And so the session we'll try to make it more heavy on the discussion. So we would like to invite you to have a very short 1-minute elevator pitch, and then we'll follow up with about 3 minutes each from Lenny and Pushpa, and later on we can just to make it as an interactive as possible. So I would stop here, and I would welcome first Mayor Alfredo. I think because you submitted your homework first, so you were first on the line. So you have your 1 minute, Mayor. So we just pull out your submitted homework so that the other can also see what you have prepared.
So good afternoon to everyone. Just a quick overview of our data in terms of financing the proposed climate resilient and inclusive housing for displaced and vulnerable families in Del Carmen. The total project cost is it's 150 million pesos with the land development cost of roughly around 100 million. So in total, it's 250 million. Currently, our local financing is not enough to be able to meet this demand. We're looking at only spending around 2 to 3 million per year using our local income. But externally, we can source out the funds, especially for the land development cost. However, because of the urgency of the situation, it's a little bit difficult for us to immediately implement the whole targeted housing within the the time that we want it done. But hopefully, you could share with us some very good tips on how we can improve our OSR. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So let me invite, who would like to go first, Lenny or Pushpa? Anyone, if you're ready. Lenny, you would like to start?
Sure, I can start. Thank you, Oki, and thank you, Honorable Mayor, for putting forward this project. And it's great to be back in the academy. I think it's my fourth or fifth time here, so it's great to be back, and it's always fascinating to see all these different projects from the different mayors. And I understand that this particular project in Del Carmen is really one of great urgency because these populations are, as I understand from the previous conversations, are having to be relocated due to the rise of seawater and the loss of the homes essentially where they're currently staying at. I mean, a couple of reflections from my side. So I was looking at the cost of the housing. I was trying to convert this to USD. What I was realizing was that, if I'm not mistaken, that the cost per house is estimated to be around $2,600 per unit. Seems to be very low, which is great in a sense. So I don't think there's much room for optimization in terms of the cost of the housing. Usually, what we deal with in other contexts is even figures such as $8,000 and above as being the lowest cost of a house at market rate. So I think that there isn't much for you to do in terms of optimization. In terms of the land, I had missed that part, but yeah, the land development. So the land that you're currently, maybe just a question back to you, Honorable Mayor, the land that you have in mind for this relocation is currently unserviced, but it's public land, right?
Yes, it is. It's underdeveloped. It's a really open space right now.
Okay. And you were saying that you could be outsourcing the servicing of the land to a private partner?
Uh, uh, mo More likely, national government will finance the development of the land, as agreed during our regular meetings with the national government agency, particularly the Public Works Department, our ministry.
Okay. So you would just have to basically cover the cost of the actual housing
Yeah.
itself. Okay.
Because our Department of Housing does not approve our design because it's low cost temporary housing model, which is under their current the ministry order should not be supported as a long-term strategy. So we're still debating if they can actually spend money on developing such a temporary housing model.
I wasn't able to find much in terms of the revenue opportunity. I imagine the displaced persons are not able to cover more than like a very small rent for these houses, right? Or how were you considering making them charging the inhabitants of those houses?
We don't really actually plan to charge them.
At all, huh?
Our model because once we start charging them, according to the Ministry of Human Settlements, we will have a hard time implementing our rules because they become tenants. And when they become tenants, because they're paying, they can implement their own rules according to our local policies.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And I also understand that the cost of these houses is basically equivalent to your total revenue that you have as a city. So I imagine, given your other expenditures, you hardly have any savings to really deliver these houses, right?
We can afford 10 per year
And so
based on
you would
current
need
projections. Yeah, 10 houses per year.
and you want to do 1,000, so you would need
Yeah, we need to do. We
100
don't want to do,
years.
but we need to do.
Yes,
We need to
okay.
move 1,000 families. But
How
at
many
least
years do you
the
have to
minimal
move
is
all these?
100. So I'm
How many
sorry.
years do you have to move? How many years do you have to move?
Based on the data, so 25 years. So that's why we want to start now.
Okay, you have 25 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So that does make
Unless
it a bit.
climate, accelerates.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you need to move them very urgently within the next year or two or whatever, then the only thing that I can think of that you could do is, because this is public land, it's probably your land, you could maybe sell off part of the land or lease it to a private developer, and then kind of make some revenues from that to then build houses on the remaining the remaining land, especially because it's also going to be serviced. But if you have time, but that of course is, I don't know if that is an option, but that of course is also quite expensive in terms of seeding public land. But if you have 25 years, it could be an option for you to optimize your own source revenues and just to pay it, like to do it in a staged way, in looking at your property. Probably what I would see is that you have opportunity to improve your property taxes. It seems to be quite low. It's usually the most potent revenue source. So I don't know. Have you looked into optimization of your OSR?
Yes, just earlier today we discussed about new ways of doing service incomes. So we estimate if everything will fall into place, we will be able to triple it by next year.
Okay. So I mean, just this is a super rapid kind of deep dive into this project, and I know I need to hand over to my colleague, but essentially I would say that if you have 25 years and you can do pretty much 10 years, 10 houses per year, if you do the optimization of some of your OSR, you should be able to do this, and it's actually a great incentive for you to optimize your own source revenues and to tell your communities, not just the affected community, but also your citizens at large. Let's work together. We need to increase the OSR so we can help each other out and move this community over to a place where they will have a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
I'm happy to dive more into OSR. That's one of my specialities, but I don't think we have time for that now. So would have to kind of circle back. But do feel free to shoot me any questions about OSR. I'd be happy to kind of dive into that also in more detail, Honorable Mayor. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I actually want to say thank you for this exercise. It opened the eyes of our finance team because I had them to really compute it and review it. And then earlier today, they presented options for how to upgrade the OSR. So they focus on service income. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayors. Thank you very much, Lenny. Puspa, would you like to come in? Please.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me, and welcome to all the honorable mayors. And thank you, Mayor of Del Carmen, for making that presentation. I think my colleague Lenny has done an excellent job to cover most of the questions. I am going to ask you three big questions. The very first one is, I don't get a sense of how many houses really you have to build. If you have said it, could you please repeat it?
The target is 1,000, but immediate is 100.
Oh, 1,000. And estimated cost you have given for total 1,000 households. Yes.
It's 150 million pesos for our total 1,000. So that's around 150,000 pesos per household.
Right. And the time frame for 1,000 households is 25 years.
Yes, that's based on the data we have, the science we have. In 25 years, the whole island becomes inhabitable. Unless the climate issue will be quicker, so we need to rush things.
But 25-year time frame for building disaster-linked housing program, to me, seems very long. People can't wait that long to get decent and safe houses. So my very first comment is that you have to speed up the process and find ways and mechanisms of doing it. If I was one of those 1,000 households, I wouldn't want to wait for one generation to get a house. So is there a possibility of speeding up the program and revisualizing your project?
In terms of costing, at least the land development, we already have an idea where to get the funding, and we should be able to start by next year. In terms of the houses itself, we're still negotiating with our Ministry of Human Settlements to allow the whole ministry to finance again temporary low-cost housing, because right now it's out of their scope. It's not part of the ministry targets. And without that kind of support, it will be difficult for us to raise enough to support the targeted 1,000 household as much as we want to in the earliest possible time.
So if it's a temporary housing, it should take even less time.
Yes, but it's the cost. The
It's the
construction
cost.
is already,
Okay.
yeah, it's the cost of
Okay.
materials. The labor is already covered, but the cost of materials.
I see. So that's the major limitation.
Can I jump in since we have other mayors and
Yes.
to come in, and then would it be okay to continue the discussions in the comments? If there's anything, you can just
Okay.
post, and then we'll try to answer as much as we could. So thank you very much, Mayor Alfredo. And I would like to welcome Mayor Eliza from Banda Aceh to have her 1-minute pitch. Please,
Okay.
Mayor.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, distinguished facilitators, estimate expert, fellow mayors, and respected guests, ladies and gentlemen. Like many other cities in our region, Banda Aceh faces one of the most urgent urban challenges, flooding and waterlogging. This is not only a matter of infrastructure, it touches people's life directly. Families are disrupted, small business owners struggle when their shops are inundated, and our health and economic activities are put at risk. That is why the city government has allocated $905,000 to flood control, consisting of 264,000 for capital investment and 640,000 for operation. Our total city revenue last year reached $90.6 million. And our own source revenue in 2025 is projected at $26.5 million, the highest per capita contribution in Aceh province. These figures show both our commitment and our capacity, but also highlight the gap we must overcome. On the expenditure side, capital spending reached $10.7 million, while recurrent expenditure remained dominant at $71.9 million. This imbalance is one of our key challenges, ensuring that more resources can be directed toward long-term resilience rather than short-term operation. Distinguished colleagues, flood mitigation for Banda Aceh is therefore not only a technical necessity but a moral responsibility. We cannot do this alone. Technical and financial barriers remain. My vision for Banda Aceh is a city that is safe, resilient, and prosperous, a city where people can live in harmony with nature, and where future generation inherit not problem but solution. With your advice, support, and partnership, I believe Banda Aceh can be a model of resilience, not only for Aceh, but also as a contribute to Asia Pacific region. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor
Thank you.
Elisa. I would like to circle back to Lenny. I think the revenue is actually not really, it's more than 20%, right? And the total that the local revenue. So I think it's actually above the average of the usual cities that rely on and with regard to their own taxes and other local revenues. In case of Banda Aceh, if I see the numbers correctly, so 60 million out of 90 million is actually coming from the central government transfers, and the rest is from the local taxes. Lenny, if you have any feedback, please.
I can go, but I think next time I would like to give Pushpa a chance to come in first, so I don't.
Yes, sure.
But
No,
maybe
go
Pushpa, you can
right
go.
ahead, Lenny. You have
Okay.
done your homework.
Yes, I've tried reviewing these documents beforehand. So I think the
Yes.
20% of total revenue that comes from OSR is not super atypical, I would say. For me to assess the performance in terms of OSR, I would need to look at like OSR per capita and look at the GDP per capita a little bit, which I haven't done. So I'm not able to look at to say much about that. But overall, it seems, you know, this is a project that I think has a great economic return. So generally speaking, the kind of cost savings that are generated in delivering this kind of work to prevent the runoff and the flooding, etc., is quite significant. The challenge is, of course, that it's hard to kind of monetize this. So it's hard to generate revenues from these types of investments. There are ways to do so. So, you know, there's like stormwater fees. There's ways you could use land value capture. I was looking this up too. I've seen cases of using flood basins. I don't know if that's something that you're looking at all, but using flood basins and charging recreational fees, you know, if this is like a lake that people can swim in or whatever. So there are some creative ways that can be used to generate revenues from this type of project that you have in mind. But it's almost never going to recover the initial investment costs or even the operational costs that you have come up with here. But that said, I think the overall cost of this project is a relatively small percentage of your overall budget. I mean, you're suggesting spending 200,000 on this, 260,000, and you are generating 90 million per year. So I would say that if this is something that, you know, within your capital investment planning, among all the projects that you're wanting to undertake this year, if this is something that really generates significant economic returns and, of course, social returns and all the rest, then maybe this is something you could prioritize and you can just basically pay for from your existing budgets, and you don't have to engage in any very complicated creative financing mechanisms to deliver this kind of project. Now, I don't know exactly what you have in mind, what this 264,000 covers, the type of infrastructure, or whether this is just some small upgrades to roads, etc., that you have in mind. But those are my initial reflections, I'd say, on this work. I hope that's at least a little bit useful to you. Pushpa, over to you.
Thank you, Lenny, and thank you, Honorable Mayor. I would like to add 2 points to Lenny's observations. First, you have identified the challenges very well that I had looked at your note, and including like taxpayers do not reside in the area, tax object area or taxable area, and the sites for billboards and tourist attractions are not clearly identified that could further help in increasing revenues. But I don't see any strategies. So identification of challenges is not adequate. You have to have enough thought into some kind of action agenda or strategies that could help improve your revenues. So could you please give some thought to it?
The strategy.
Hello?
Yeah, I will think about the strategy to
Get the revenue.
to get the revenue for this project.
You will think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's good. And second point was, I think this waterlogging issue is a long-term climate challenge. So one has to also think of mitigation activities along with financial strategies. I do not see that in your note either.
Yes, we can allocated budget multi-years, inshallah, for this project. Yeah.
Okay. So these were my two broad comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for input.
Thank you very much, Puspa and Lenny, and thank you, Puspa, for noted that it's for the long term. It's better to combine both mitigations and adaptations. And I think your idea also for Lenny on the, I think combining the nature-based solutions with like trying to live high income out of depending on how the city is going to use that waterlogging, water retentions place. That would thank you very much. And I would like to welcome the next mayor, please, from Hulu Selangor. Mayor Julaiha, if you are in ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you have
All right.
your 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Wait, I want to adjust something here. Okay, this is my initiative. This is that is the report for the assignment that given to us. So what I can say within this 1 minute given to us, for Hulu Selangor, our own source revenue actually depends heavily on our assessment tax. This is, I think, same like other municipal council, which makes about 56% of our total revenue come from our assessment tax, and it's about 17.4 million USD for 2024 itself. And we also face about areas for about 4 million USD a year. And this is because of we have a limited staff who can help us to collect our revenue from the community. And we also rely on our debt collectors to help us to collect our areas from the community. So our financing strategy to address this, we established our endowment fund, which I shared 2 weeks ago with the with you, especially Dr. Puspa. So we established our endowment fund started 2018, and for this year, 2025, we have our initial fund about 7.2 ringgit Malaysia or 1.53 US dollar million in principle. And our projection annually, we will get about 200,000 ringgit Malaysia contribution, about 43,000 US dollar from the companies, from the communities through this endowment fund. And with our annual fixed dividend interest like 3.5%, we project that this fund will grow nearly RM 15 ringgit Malaysia 15 million in 15 years ahead, about 3.38 million USD, and this will generate about 500,000 annually ringgit Malaysia income. So we plan through this income, it will help us to support our poverty program Under this endowment fund, we project to fund a program under for poverty reduction, hunger eradication, and also education. And this have been in practice for these past 7 years. What we get from this endowment fund, we will channel back to our community to support our SDG program, to reduce hunger, to reduce poverty, and to support education in our community area. With that, thank you. 1 minute speech.
Thank
So
you
I
very
welcome
much.
any comment from Mr. Lenny and Dr. Pushpa.
Thank you very much. Puspa, would you like to
Yeah,
start
okay.
this time?
Setting up thank you, okay, and thank you, Honorable Mayor. Setting up an endowment fund, actually, I found quite innovative an idea for poverty reduction and reducing vulnerabilities. I wonder if you have looked at similar endowment funds established in other cities, or it's an idea locally generated after talking to people.
Actually, this endowment is started under our local government act. Is allowed under our government act. So this idea we started from that. And actually, we also look into other country. For example, University of Al Azhar, they have a very good endowment system there. They use the endowment fund they get from the community to support their students, to pay for their student fees and to support their schooling and everything. So we copy from that, but we localize in our community. We target we have our targeted program because in our municipal area we have quite a high number of poverty family. So under this program, we focus on helping our school children to support them so that they have they have a motivation to go to school and to help them to finance their school fees and to buy books and everything. But since the fund now is not so big, we have a smaller group, and we continue this program year by year and do the campaign to get support from our community, especially from the private sector.
Right. So I do not see a mechanism through which either through cost recovery or through some part of cost recovery, although in poverty reduction program, there would be very little cost recovery, is there potential of replenishing the endowment fund and expanding the program in future?
Sure, Doctor. For the current, we focus only on 3 SDG, SDG number 1, SDG 2, and SDG 4. But we believe in future when the fund is getting bigger and bigger, sure we can embark to another SDG to put in under our program. But for a moment, since the fund not so big, you can see there for this year 2025, from the initial year we only have 7.2 ringgit Malaysia million. So if we get more and more contribution from other companies or from the community, we believe we can embark to another scope of program under this endowment fund, especially to finance the infrastructure. Maybe because I heard so many ideas just now for our program today. Maybe in future when we have enough money, we can embark on infrastructure to finance under this endowment fund. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Lenny.
Thanks so much. Yeah, this is a great idea, and I think not all cities that I've worked in have the capacity to develop this kind of fund, because you need to be able to invest some money at least to have it have the money work for you. So it's great if you're able to kind of set aside that money and kind of keep reinvesting it into the fund, and then probably use some of the dividends that are generated to for these various SDG social purposes that you have described. So yeah, so I think it's a good idea. I don't know how scalable it is for other cities, and I imagine also that you will need to have strict regulation in place to kind of ensure the effective control over this fund. And but yeah, overall I think it's a good initiative, and it may be worthwhile for other cities to look at, as opposed to engaging in other types of investment opportunities that I see cities engage in. Cities try all kinds of other investments. Some launch their own hotels or their own companies of sorts, mining companies, or um, involved in extraction of other natural resources. And I think this is one that actually doesn't involve too much operational headache, and I think is also doesn't bear the risk of limiting your land. Oftentimes investments kind of involve some kind of ceding of land, etc., to private individuals. So I think this is an interesting idea, and I know it's not something that needs to be financed per se. It's more you're actually setting up your own financing mechanism. And I'll be curious to hear from other mayors whether this is something that is allowed within their countries and something that they have thought about. But very interesting initiative. And thanks for showcasing it.
Thank you, Mr. Lenny.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor. And thank you very much, Lenny and Puspa. I would like, to invite Malay from Maldives, who would like to take the floor. Representative on behalf of the mayors,
Yeah,
please.
can you hear me?
Yes, you have 1 minute for your elevator pitch, please.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Soba and I'm going to be presenting on behalf of Mali City Mayor. So we have highlighted as a challenge the severe traffic congestion problem in Mali City because of the high density. So from that, the things that are identified is investments on EV buses, investment on charging ports, parking places. So when we look at the current proposed revenue, we get around for the project, it is estimated to be costing about 215 million. So I have done this in rupiah. So if you convert that, it's like $16 million for the total capital investment. That is to make bike lanes, green corridors and walkways, and EV infrastructure along with smart traffic light system. So green corridors are things now we are making in the public spaces. We have like the walls of the mosque, the bus stands, all the public places owned by the city council. The walls are now broken down and are being made into green corridors. So the whole purpose of the decongestion plan is to make it more viable climate wise. Hence, we have also included things like planting more trees. So for that, the total cost is around 16 million and estimated maintenance cost is around $2 million per year. So how much we get in revenue is through block grants. Now government allocates 5% of its national budget to all councils. So there's a fiscal formula they use to give grants. So it's according to the population and the size of the city and the performance of the city. So we get around, in dollars, it is block grant is $11,000. And the most revenue we get from motor vehicle license fee. So there is a trade-off also with the vehicle congestion plan where our most income generation source is as well the vehicle fees and licensing fees. So if we are going to decongest, reduce the number of vehicles, this is a trade-off we are going to make. So $7 million, $7.8 million we are going to get as motor vehicle license fees. So if we are to reduce the number of vehicles in Mali City, we are going to get less revenue from these license fees as well. And then there is other fees and rents we get from the lands we have given for rent. So it goes up to $1 million, and other revenues 0.5, fees regarding lands 0.6 million. So those are our own source resources, what we get in addition to non-grant revenues are 182 million rupiah.
Thank you very
Which is-
much. Since
Yeah.
we are running behind the schedule for now, if I would like just to invite Puspa and Lenny to provide their feedback so that you can rely back to the mayor. Would it works? Thank you.
Yeah, can I add just one thing? So when we were making this, there was some suggestions given about making buses, EV buses. But in Maldives, most of the buses run by SOEs, state-owned enterprises. So Mali City Council currently doesn't operate any buses. So how will we go about this during the decongestion and for the finance as well? Yeah.
Am I supposed to
can-
go first this time?
Oh, it's up to you, Pushpa.
Oh,
I can
okay.
go if you want.
Oh, go on, Lenny.
Okay. So, so I think this sounds to me like it is a project that's potentially financeable. So something that you could get investors on board for. Generally urban transport is something that where you're unlikely to maybe be able to recover your investment through the various revenue opportunities that are presented by user fees, by advertising opportunities, retail, property tax related things that you could use. But so I think there is some potential to do this, even though you may not be able to recover the whole 16 million.
Yeah.
And so you may want to speak to CDIA and other project preparation facilities about this. Having said that, I also think it's probably on the lower end of the ticket size that they're usually interested in, with 16 million being the total cost. So they may want you to aggregate this and combine it with some other kind of investments for it to make sense for them, and reduce the overall transactional costs involved in this, or at least a percentage of transactional costs. But having said that, as that being one kind of pathway for you, I see that
There is
part of this
$16,000.
$16 million that you want to invest are kind of a bundle of different things: bike lanes, green corridors, walkways, etc. So I also see there an opportunity for you to kind of break this down into individual components and
Yeah.
to phase basically this investment and to carry it out through basically put it on your own budget sheet. So kind of deliver it through your other revenues. Overall, this project is, the 16 million is, I think, about 60 or 70% of your budget. So it's quite a lot. But if you break it down, you would probably have at least some aspects of it that could be implemented piece by piece, as you kind of gear up towards having one bigger project that is more capital intensive that you could take towards towards financing. Having said that, that was one other thing I wanted to say. Yeah,
Is
no, I
16
think
million
that's.
too less for a project? $16 million.
I think it's on the lower end. you know,
We
and there's
thought like
something.
start small and then scale up later. Or should it be a full scale big project?
I mean, I would be curious to hear what Pushpa has to say, but my sense would be that that are here that you can do yourself, like the walkway bike lanes and stuff that don't generate revenues very easily. You could do them yourself and then see whether you can get finance for a larger bus, climate-friendly bus project where you focus on the buses and and uh, um, and you have the climate angle in there, so it does make it attractive for a lot of these financiers as well.
Yeah.
Thank
Pushpa,
you,
over
Len.
to you.
Pushpa.
Yeah, thank you, Lenny. And thank you, Honorable Mayor. My immediate response to your project, which is a comprehensive traffic and transport management plan for cost recovery, and your dilemma about public transport that is owned by another company and returns going to that company is quite common. So in this kind of comprehensive traffic management plan, I think you need to break up the areas from where revenues will come to the local government, the municipality, and the areas where the revenues will not come. But on the basis of that split, you can go up to the government and ask for additional funding for things like pavement improvement, greening of the side streets, taking care of climate-related goals, etc. So you need to split up your responsibilities and revenue potential. Is there any possibility? Have you given it a thought to it?
Yeah. But our that revenue and asset will be under an SOE, right? We will not be able to get any even.
Yes, I understand. And 16 million is less or more will depend on complete feasibility study. I don't know what is the population of Malé. I don't know how many people use public transport. I don't know how many people use motorized vehicles. So I would not be able to comment on whether 16 million is adequate or not.
Thank you very much, Pushpa and Lee. I think I believe that the representative from from Malay City has taken the note for that. And unfortunately, since we are running behind the schedule and Kurt has to leave at 2 p.m., so I need to wrap up these interactive sessions for now. And thank you very much for mayors who have submitted their homework. And I know that there are mayors from Suryodaya and Kampung Chonang who has not been able to share their initiative today. And thank you very much for Lenny and Puspa for actually going through all this homework and prepare the very detailed feedback for the mayors. If you have any other feedback in writing or anything, please let us know and we'll be happy to relate to the mayors. Once again, thank you very much. And Lenny,
Thank
really
you.
happy to have you back in the Mayors Academy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So
Thanks so much, Oki. It's great being here again.
Yes, Puspa.
So 2 mayors have not submitted their homework.
They have, but we just didn't have enough time to running out, and then they were not able to present themselves today.
I see. Okay.
Yes. So if you have
All
prepare
right.
your feedback, please let us know, and we'll be happy to relate to the mayors. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. And Kurt,
Thank you.
I'll hand over the sessions to you for 5 minutes before you have to leave.
Thank you very much, Oki. And thanks really to Pushpa, who has been a great contributor to ESCAP and an expert that we rely on to provide information and guidance to the region on urban finance issues. She's been a major contributor to our flagship reports and has been really an expert and a recognized expert and go-to person really for urban finance issues. And I think you saw this afternoon some of the questions and the way that the initiatives really need to be considered across a whole stream of thought, not just about what is the initiative you want to do, but how are you bringing into the consideration economic factors, social factors, implementation factors, long-term operational factors, and addressing the root cause of the problem as well. Lenny, thanks. It's been great to see you again. You've been with us since the beginning in 2019. And I think, again, this discussion really highlighted the importance of robust own source revenue regimes in all communities. I think one of the biggest challenges for cities across this region has been the traditional reliance on intergovernmental transfers. And in some respects, it has really put cities in a box that is hard to get out of. It's hard to break out of that reliance on intergovernmental transfers because cities have not been in the position to have to build robust own source revenue, to build the regimes for fee collection and tax collection. And the more that you can, and it's not going to happen overnight either. It will be incremental. But again, as I said earlier, while you can develop a standalone bankable project, in parallel, you have to develop the fiscal reforms to really put in place that transition from the reliance on intergovernmental transfers to a diverse range of options for financing, whether it be infrastructure or other initiatives, housing, urban services. One of the things that cities always have to think about is in the discussion about raising revenue, no citizen ever wants to pay more. And so it's not just a question about increasing revenue. It's also about how you're improving the lives of citizens, whether that be through the infrastructure investments, whether it be improving access to basic urban services, or whether it be through some other means. So the initiatives, while they may be bankable, you also have to sell them to your community and demonstrate what the benefit will be to the citizens in terms of livability, not just the financial feasibility of an initiative, but the overall benefit to the community. And that's true for all initiatives, all elements of city operations as well. So it requires a whole range of thinking on the short term on how do you prepare a project that can be feasible. And we had the discussion earlier today about project preparation. It's then about how do you think long-term about how do you implement this project? Where do you access financing to support a project? But it also has to be part of a much bigger picture on what the vision and the objectives of the community are. And that's not just through a single initiative or a single project. You have to bring the community together to build the will for that project and demonstrate its effectiveness. The last thing I'll say about financing, and there's a lot more that we could say, and we could spend many more hours on feedback and discussions about options and urban finance challenges, is what mayors have to do is in bringing their communities together is create certainty. It's certainty for investment, and that depends on, it doesn't rely on one particular source of revenue, but creating certainty for investment is also creating certainty among the citizens, your local communities. It's about creating certainty with the national government that you've gone through a robust planning process. You understand the implications of the investment. You've thought through how it's going to be implemented, operated, and maintained. So you have that long-term sustainability, which creates certainty. And if it's from other investors, whether they be international financial institutions, private banks, public-private partnerships, without that level of certainty, you will not receive any kind of investment interest external to the city government. So building own source revenue is one of those ways of creating certainty, that you've looked at your fiscal situation, you're managing your own resources well, you're optimizing your local revenue options, and you're planning all of those investments and how you're managing those resources effectively. So again, while you're finalizing your initiatives and preparing to present them as part of your graduation, also think about what else needs to happen in parallel to build that certainty within your community, to build the political will and the community enthusiasm for those projects, and how you're going to sell them, not just to the banker or the investor or to the national government that might support, but also to the community. Okay. So again, thank you, Lenny. Thank you, Pushpa. Thank you to all of the speakers today, and especially to the mayors for putting together proposals. I think what you heard in some of the questions today are really quite important for you to consider. The pushback on how are you coming up with your idea? How are you going to implement it? Where did you come up with this? Is the concept fully developed? Are really the questions that you need to consider, because as you take forward your initiatives and look for financing, those will be the questions that are asked, whether it be from the national government, from your citizens, or from any other external financing source. So again, thanks, Lenny. Thanks, Pushpa, for all of your support over many years, and specifically today to the mayors. This is the last module before your expected graduation next week. On behalf of all of the Academy partners, I want to thank all of the mayors for all of your work. I know it's been a long, is it 6 months that you've participated across each of the modules. I think what we could say honestly is that you have listened across each of the modules. You've incorporated many of the learnings into your initiatives. And that's the objective of this Academy, is to allow mayors to bring all of those issues, whether it be on urban and territorial planning, or how do you build resilience strategies and sustainability within your initiatives? How do you deploy the best technologies for your communities? And then how do you develop a strong, robust financial mechanism to support those initiatives and more broadly your communities? So I hope you've seen the benefit in the overall structure of the Academy really emerge through your own initiatives. It will be my honor to see you next week for the graduation ceremony. At this point, it's important that I extend our thanks on behalf of all of the Academy partners to all of the speakers, all of the experts who have provided feedback, but especially to the mayors and their staffs for their active engagement across this Academy. Not everyone who's joined the Academy as faculty or as expert feedback providers, or or otherwise been engaged, will be able to join us next week. So I need to take the time to thank all of our staffs across all of the partners. So ESCAP, UN Habitat, UNU, Oki, thank you, UCLG ASPAC, IGES, and the Association of Pacific Rim Universities. I think and I hope that you can see that all of the expertise that's been provided through all of those partners and the extended network of speakers beyond those partners, or those that they've mobilized, have really been brought together to support mayors and help you to develop your initiatives and think about your communities in maybe a different way that will be useful to you as you go forward as graduates of this Academy. So again, thank you to all the partners. Thank you to the ESCAP staff, who I know have been with you in communicating across the last 6 months. We'll be with you certainly through the graduation, and then once you're a graduate of the Academy, you remain with the Academy. You come back as alumni, as expert speakers, as champions of sustainability. And that's also part of the objective of this academy, is to share your expertise that you've developed through your participation, through the engagement of your communities. And we hope to see many of your initiatives implemented and shared more broadly. So thank you all very, very much. With that, Oki, back over to you if you have any closing comments.
No, I wouldn't want it to hold everyone much longer. So thank you very much and have safe travel to Gayong, to those who are traveling next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very
All the
much.
best next week.
Thank you. Thank you. See you all next week.
Thank you.
Safe trip, next week.
Udah kan keluar kan?
Thank you.